Warning.
You are now tuned in to 7 Mile Radio.
ASD Productions.
7 Mile Radio.
What up, though? Excuse My Truth podcast. Mac and Macho, y'all know the vibe. Mac, what up, my baby?
What about y'all? We in this thing tonight with a couple of our guests, special honored, esteemed guests.
How y'all doing, ladies?
Hey.
Great. Thank you. Hi.
Mac, you gonna introduce the... Well, before we get started with introducing the guests, Mac, how's your day going?
I've had an interesting day that I choose not to discuss right now, but thank you for asking, and we're going to go ahead and proceed.
We got my guy Mark D. Shout out 7 Mile Radio, 7 Mile
Yeah,
Update
yeah.
on Facebook.
What's the word? What's the word? What's
Mark
the
in the
word,
building.
family?
I ain't never complaining, man. Even on the days where it ain't ideal, you know what I'm saying? I'll be like, shit could be worse, so really no such thing as a bad day.
Right.
So we got some guests in the house for tonight's topic and tonight's discussion, and we are absolutely, what up, Taj, my baby? Taj be locked in though. Erica, we appreciate you too, my baby. So listen,
ready.
on tonight's episode of Excuse My Truth podcast, we got some deep shit we want to talk about.
Domestic violence, intimate partner violence.
And then let's be very case specific, right? So before we introduce the guests, like, so I made a post, and in the post, I I play too much sometimes, but sometimes I provoke thought. And in the post, I simply asked the question. I said, "Who raised you clowns that think it's okay to put your hands on women?" Right? I said, "You guys deserve to be castrated. You don't deserve no wop."
What type of response did you get?
Oh, it went up. As every post does, you know what I mean? It absolutely gained a lot of attention, a lot of dialogue. But I think it was more or less, it didn't really get in deep in terms of the discussions, because I didn't add the caveat to it. I didn't add the portion of it that then posed the question to ladies as to why do y'all stay in those situations? Why do y'all continue to be with that clown that think it's okay to physically put his hands on you? So with that being said, D-Mac, you want to go ahead and introduce our guests and how they will impact today's topics?
Yes, I will. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge something you said, and it's the predominant question, and it's why do women stay?
Mm-hmm.
And I really would rather the question be, why do people abuse? Because to question why women stay, you're almost putting the responsibility on the victim.
That's right.
You understand?
Agreed.
But if we ask the question, why do people, not just women, because men get abused too, there are LGBTQ relationships where men abusing men, women abusing women. So I don't want to say a gender when it comes to the abuser. But what I will say is, why is the predominant question, why y'all don't just leave? Why is not the predominant question, why don't you just not abuse? And so,
Something to think about.
before
Yeah.
that, I wanted to
That's
say
the
that
one that's
before we introduce our guests. I do want to introduce my cousin Paula. She is a domestic violence survivor. Yes, round of applause. She's not a victim. She is a survivor. We also have our good
I think that's
friend.
your phone, Matt.
I'm sorry.
I think that's your phone.
My phones are down.
I hear somebody chirping.
Our good friend Erica Mariah. She is a advocate for domestic violence survivors. She's also an advocate for sexual abuse and rape survivors, intimate partner violence, intimate partner sexual abuse. She's also very involved in our community. And I will allow each one of you to give a brief description of yourself before we dive into this question. Why do women stay? But the more predominant question, what happened to the man?
Well, I believe why do women stay? That's a great question. Some people say just leave. That's what I've heard before, all you had to do is just leave. But it's more complicated than just leaving. About myself, I'm over 50. I was in a marriage, an abusive marriage, and I was raised around domestic violence. I was raised around trauma.
Yeah.
And some things we are around and we see them as normal. And just like I said, it's never just get up and leave. Well, that's not what it was for me. It was a process. We'll be exploring that later.
You want to introduce yourself to our viewing and listening audience, Miss Erica Mariah?
Sure. I'm here first and foremost to support Paula
Thank
as
you.
my friend and sister and colleague,
Thank
the
you.
newest member of Supreme
I
Transitions.
heard. See, we make connections around here.
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
important
we
to
do.
have, what Supreme Transitions does is culturally specific, trauma-informed services for Black survivors of violence, gender-based violence, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, child welfare, the intersection of domestic violence and child welfare, the intersection of domestic violence and homelessness. So many different things here in our city that are an issue that need national attention. And so I was blessed to meet Paula through you. And as more opportunities and blessings have come my way, she was just laid on my heart to ask her if she would join the team and share her lived experience
That's
with other
awesome.
survivors and be our program director for this upcoming year.
That's awesome.
So I'm very excited
you.
about what's coming and
And
her
I'm
contribution.
excited as well.
She'll be able to
Yes.
impact a lot of people with her story.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I've come a very long way. I am from 7 Mile.
Right.
And I am from Schoolcraft. Okay, I am District 7, 7th generation citizen or resident, I should say. And I'm a survivor of teen dating violence, intimate partner violence as an adult, sexual assault, homelessness, and so many things. But just like Paula and many other women and
Yes.
or victims of violence, I never considered myself a victim, and I most definitely didn't know that I was a victim of domestic violence.
And that's interesting because I remember talking with you all before, and you both had an epiphany that, and sometimes women, it to the outside world, you know, looking in, it's like, girl, you don't see what's happening. But while
Right.
you're in the midst of the waters with the currents flowing wherever they will, it's hard to understand and process what you're dealing with in the moment. You're just dealing and surviving.
Yes.
So let's try to answer this question. Why is it so hard to leave? Why? So since people want to put the onus on the victim and say, why don't you just leave and not tolerate that, rather than putting the onus on the perpetrator and asking that person, why don't you abuse? Why do women stay?
Well, like we said earlier, first you have to believe that you're a victim. I had no idea that I was a victim or a survivor, or that anything that I had ever went through up until I had my epiphany. I had no idea that that was domestic violence, or that that was trauma, or that that was something that is wrong. I had no idea until I actually took a college class and I saw the power and control wheel, and I began to recognize myself on that power and control wheel as a victim, and then sometimes as a perpetrator.
That part.
So
Right.
talk to us about the power and control wheel. Can you put that diagram up for the audience? What did you see on that power and control wheel that told you, oh, this is me?
Well, as far as where it really started is with the emotional abuse. I didn't think that teasing or someone teasing me about some things that had happened in my life or holding things over my head was abuse.
A form of abuse.
I thought it was teasing. I'm thinking we playing, or I'm playing, you playing. But as time goes on, there's a build on whatever is going on. That power and control it gets
You
built
start to
on.
believe what they're saying.
Started
And
believing
it
it.
breaks you down gradually.
It breaks your soul.
Yeah.
It attempts to.
Attempts to.
That's
Attempts
good.
to, because
Good-
my soul
good-
is still
good
intact
thing,
now. But that's what they were going for, was my soul. And as time went on, we had a child. My child was brought into the equation on many occasions. That's one of the reasons some women say they stay, but I can say I wanted a family and I wanted my child to have a home. But some people don't understand, and I didn't understand until later that my child knew that I was being abused, and I didn't even know.
You thought you were protecting her and
Right.
keeping her and shielding her from all of that, but yet
Yes,
she was still aware.
I'm thinking. Okay,
I think people
everything's gonna be
underestimate
just fine.
children.
They do.
We do. We
You
did.
know what I'm saying? We underestimate what they see, what they impact, what impacts them, what they experience, and it's like, okay, as much as we want to shield them, we still have to allow them to see reality,
Right.
because they gonna see it anyway.
They see it a lot of times before we do, and they're praying that we wake up and leave.
Yes.
That's their seat. Ma, I'm so happy you left. You know, I'm so happy you finally left. For those who don't know, so domestic violence, a lot of times people assume it's just black eyes.
Right, right.
And that's where you get the victim blaming.
Right.
Because if people can't see your wounds,
Yeah.
then they don't understand all of the layers and the dynamics that goes into your why
the
you
grooming.
stay. Because the number one reason, statistically, for people to stay in violent relationships is due to finances. It's because generally that person is the breadwinner. They have more resources. They insulate you and make you feel safe. They, whether it's a car, a house, your bills being paid, the lifestyle that you live and you're accustomed to. Everybody doesn't know how to handle stress. And if this trauma bond that you've been in with this person helps you get up through the hard times, I can handle when he's hitting me or she's hitting me. I just want them
Because
to stop hitting me, but
that
we'll
that
get
other
through it.
element outweighs
Yep.
the abuse.
Yeah. And
That's
statistics
deep.
also say that a victim of violence is 7 times more likely to die when or if they leave.
When they're trying to leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then 7 times more likely to die if they should return after attempting to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a very serious situation, very scary situation. And if you don't feel that you have the resources, the emotional support, the psychological support, financial support,
yeah.
your kids don't have what they need. Because a lot of times in our community, in the black community, we don't have support. A lot of people say that. I don't have nobody that got my back in the time.
And by the time a woman gets to a place where she's ready to leave, she's already been isolated from
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Everybody has stopped trying to intervene because she keeps going back,
Yep.
right? And so, which is the place
Or
that
that
he
person
wants.
has been violent with your family.
Exactly, which where I've been in
And
that
ain't nobody
situation.
trying to go to jail.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's like now you like, well, okay, I'm ready to go, but I don't have the means to go. I don't have anybody that can help me go. It's not simple, and it's not as simple as saying, just leave. Just
G-Mac.
leave. You're getting your ass beat. Just leave.
But
Just
do
leave.
you
It's not
realize
that easy.
How many people don't have a bank account?
Oh, I do. Oh, I do.
But here,
But
Right.
they strategically put those women in those positions.
Man,
And it's
Y'all reminded me.
strategic. It's called grooming.
Yep.
I don't let you get a job, or I
monitor your
disrupt your
hours.
employment
there was
to
a
the
lady
point where you can't keep a job.
on my friends list who I recall had moved to Detroit from the East Coast somewhere. I can't recall exactly what state. And it was one weekend. It was a Friday where her and her husband got into it. Put his hands on her. She called the police, and you know what happened, right? Over the weekend.
Right.
So again, she's from out of state, no family here. She doesn't have a job, doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have a bank account, but they got 2 kids. And now she's reaching out to Facebook for help to get my baby something to eat because he at home, and then I don't really know what's gonna happen when he get back.
That part.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so segue, and I'm not taking away from anybody else's testimony
Right,
and
go
people that wanted to say things on your page. I want
No,
all
go
the
ahead.
survivors to chime in.
Go ahead.
But do you know what a desert is?
Go ahead.
And Detroit is a resource desert specifically when it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah.
It's only one
You told me
domestic
about that
violence
one
shelter
precinct.
in Detroit. Well, I used to work at the 9th Precinct.
Yeah.
We did great work at the 9th Precinct. I worked there as a civilian embedded domestic violence officer, just to assist community members with PPOs and safety plans and exit plans, and warm referrals to wraparound services.
Right.
But when we talk about Detroit being a resource desert, and there's only one domestic violence shelter that's not even connected to the state anymore for funding, it's only 16 beds, and it's a family shelter. Then we have to talk about single mothers that come into shelter with male children. There are rules about bringing your male children into shelters.
They make it so
There's so
difficult
many
for you to get
barriers.
the help.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Paula, I remember
Yes.
when you talked about before, when we talked about this, that
Yes.
you went to a shelter. You left.
Sure
You
did.
finally found the courage to leave and went to a shelter.
Yes, I did.
And you got to the shelter and you felt more unsafe
Yes, I did.
at the shelter than you did with your abuser. So you went back home to your abuser. Talk to us about
That's exactly what happened. I caught myself, my daughter and I escaping for the final time.
that.
That was the first time I left and said, okay, I'm not going back. And the circumstances in the shelter were so bleak. It was worse than where I was already. The conditions, the food. I'm taken out of one situation and placed to another situation where my fate is in someone else's hands,
And you still feel
and I'm
abused.
at their mercy, and I'm being judged, I'm being looked at, and I even had a job in a shelter, trying to work in the shelter, and I had a curfew, and I had to get notes from my job to let the shelter know that,
Wow.
oh, you're going out of town for your job, and you'll be doing blah blah blah.
Wow.
I'm a professional in a shelter, getting permission from the shelter to go to work, getting permission. I mean, I had no dignity. The room, my daughter begged me to just go back home, and I let her go back, and then I'm eventually like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I mean, it's not working. How feasible is it for me to go somewhere, I'm asking you for help, and you telling me, oh, you can get one pair of underwear over here at this clothing bank that we're going to. How's that going to help me?
She ain't lying.
And
How
that's
am I going to eat?
that's unfortunate because
And
when
other people.
women want to leave,
Yes.
and you have to leave in the most safe way possible, because
Right.
as you stated, the statistics are higher, right? If you're
Yes.
trying to leave without a exit plan,
Correct.
so and the death statistics are higher.
The fatality.
Yeah, the fatalities, like
Right. And
So-
during that time, the offer from my ex-abuser sounded more attractive.
that
Like,
is
okay,
the
come on, let's try again. And I'm like, oh Lord, I'm gonna do it again.
As they say, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. You know.
Right.
listen.
That's exactly
but
how it
that's
worked out.
powerful.
Damn.
That's a powerful statement.
That's saying a lot about something where we are telling people just go. But where are we going?
That's
And
how
not
it's
about
done.
the resource
Maybe
that's
that-
available in the city. That's what we speak to. It's like, man,
the lack thereof.
the lack, yeah, that's what I'm
we
saying.
have
That's what I'm
hundreds of
saying.
people here that need help, or hundreds of people at any given time, and you telling me we have one shelter in this
Specifically
area.
for domestic violence.
Now I understand. I do know a sister who came up with. She has a nonprofit called, I believe, it's My Sister Safe House, and it's basically to cater to the need of not only women but men, like anybody,
Yeah.
children that are victims of domestic violence. Because there is a like y'all are speaking exactly to what she was saying when she was over here with her interview about there being the lack of resource or being a desert, basically.
It is.
But then why
Resources
is
like
that?
that.
It
though?
is.
Why is
And I
that?
ended up in
Strategically.
another
Of course, it's strategic.
county.
So, before I make that next comment, to understand who I am and how I'm able to speak to these things is that the lane that I created, and I said it's a long joke or story of how I started Supreme Transitions,
Okay.
right? Being in the clubs, being in the bars, and helping people in the bar, get
Gotta
safe.
go to where they at though.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
what Jesus did. He went to where the people were that need help.
And
Right.
so to start our nonprofit agency under those that idea, it's been a journey over the past 12 years. And to be able to now become a national domestic violence and sexual assault advocate and be in the rooms and be a part of policy making and changes and talk about the funding sources and where the money goes when it comes to the state. And now, you know, the state recognizing, oh yeah, we need Erica on our team to speak to lived experience of survivors, the truth of what's actually happening in Detroit, and then to reform that, right?
And there's something to be said about lived experience.
Yeah, it's the best.
Which is why
experience.
we have y'all.
It's the
on
best
here.
expertise.
It's the best expertise
Yes.
because you have book knowledge and you know a lot of statistics and you know a lot of trends and you know a lot of this, that, or the other. It does not make you an expert in the emotional impact
The hard
of
part.
the victim.
Right. Exactly.
So you guys' story is really powerful and profound. Macho, you been. I
You got
want to
thoughts
ask you a
swirling?
question. I want to ask you
No, I
a
mean,
question. Is
I'm
this helping
vibing.
to answer your question though? About why do women stay?
I think it. I mean, well. I think the bigger answer is still just that. Like we really. I mean, I think each situation is different, right? I think
Right,
that's a
right.
very
That's
safe
true.
Yeah.
assessment because to the point of where when you can identify where men thrive in the area of dependency, right? When I can control the situation, you know what I mean? Like and in those situations when a man and I'm just again just generalizing, right? Where when a woman has her own identity and her own independence and her own bag, you know what I mean, and can come into the situation and bring her own table to the table. Most men don't know how to handle that type of a woman. Right, most women, men like the weak-minded woman where he can control her, manipulate her, and then it's unfortunate when it gets to the point where the manipulation and control ties into the physical, you know, not only intimidation but then the physical abuse, right? So whereas if the first thought would be like, well, her stand, I think perpetuates the cycle and makes it even worse because now that makes him feel a little more inferior, right? And when you start looking at like the guy, because we've had situations where we've got into it with dog and maybe we've had to fuck him up and then now a week later they back together and now we still beefing with dog like years later.
Yeah,
like, you know what I
been
mean?
there.
Because
So
that ass whooping didn't help me leave though.
yeah.
It just made him more mad.
It made him more mad. Which means when
And
these
that's gonna be
niggas leave
directed
after
towards
beating
you.
my ass, I'm
Yeah.
gonna beat your ass.
But he gonna do or she gonna do whatever it takes to reel me back in.
Yeah.
Right. So
You know,
so
And,
so
and,
that
and it's manipulation.
Yeah.
It's intimidation. It's control.
It's power and control.
It's,
absolutely.
All
And so-
of those different, what is it, about 6, 7, 8 different
Spectrums on that wheel.
spectrums on that wheel?
Yes. 8.
Yeah, but
male
to the
privilege.
but so when women, and again being in that situation and you women both have been a part of it, can you guys both share to your experiences as to why you personally stayed in those situations? You know what I mean? Even beyond where maybe again the lack of resources obviously is a thing though, but what was it for you personally that even made you comfortable to like subject yourself back into the situation?
So, Paula, you said from the first time that you left to the last time you left, that was a period of 9 years.
Yes.
Chronologize that for us. Oh, is that a word, chronologize?
I know what you're saying.
You
though.
black explaining it.
I know what you're saying.
Put it in chronological
Summarize
order.
it.
I be
know
making
what you
up
just
words,
said.
y'all.
I got it.
Dr.
You
Dr. Love.
Chronicle, whatever.
give you a chronicle of it. Well, first of all, you have to realize you're being abused.
Right.
So it was years. I probably had been with him probably about 10 years before I got to the part where I said, oh, I'm in an abusive relationship.
And how
I may
old
be
were you when the
abusive.
abuse started, and what's the age difference between the two of you guys as well?
I met him at 26. He was 40. So he had an age over me.
That's power and control.
Yes,
That
he
already-
did have an age advantage
Because
over
he
me.
sets the standard for the roles of the male and the female. Because he's older,
And what's
right?
supposed to happen?
Yeah.
And guess what? I had no idea. Nobody taught me anything like this. This is the same thing. This was normal.
Did you see
You know-
women as you were growing up? Did you see these type of relationships?
Yes. older men, younger women, that's normal.
Even back
No,
then
the
it was more
physical.
Even
Did you see? Did you see
abusive.
like
Oh,
your,
yeah,
your
oh,
instance
yeah.
of
Oh,
abusive?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, we
Mother,
cousins.
father.
Yeah, we saw that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yes.
so realistically,
Some-
how many of us have not?
Right.
And
Yeah,
but
that's
the
true.
truth of the matter is, this generation is more vocal. They're more
Right.
willing to talk about what's really happening.
Well, and
When
I
we
didn't
were
know.
growing up, we were not permitted to speak about these things.
Right.
We were only permitted to walk out of this house. Don't talk about shit that go on behind
What happened
these
in this
closed
house,
doors.
stay in this house.
Put the smile
Play
on
like
and go
it
out there
didn't
and
happen.
be fake as fuck and act
Right.
like everything is okay.
But everybody was doing it.
But everybody.
So that's
doing
our
it.
norm.
So it's not
It's
new.
a cultural norm.
Yeah, it's not new.
But I
Right.
misheard what you said when you said the new generation, because for me, teen dating violence is how I was introduced.
Okay.
Outside of seeing my parents fight. My parents were married, and together until I was like in maybe the 3rd grade. But to see my dad and my mom physically be aggressive with each other, verbally be aggressive with each other, try to separate and come back together, and things be good when it's good, but real bad when it's bad. And to see family members get involved, and to know it didn't feel good to see that as a child, but you don't know what that will look like for you,
Yeah.
right? And so when I got in high school and started dating, I didn't realize that when someone was saying to me, nobody will ever love you like I do, that's a part of power and control dynamics. That's a part of wearing down your
It's
psyche.
emotional manipulation.
It is. And so that's what I was going to say before. It's several different layers to domestic violence. It's not just black eyes. It's not just financial
emotional,
abuse.
it's
It's emotional.
mental,
It's
it's
psychological.
verbal.
It's verbal.
Yeah.
And those are the bruises that hurt the worst and last the longest. So the questions that you're asking are valid. Because when you're in that relationship as a teenager and your brain has not fully formed until you turn 21,
Yep.
this is what you believe to be normal and it's going to be okay.
Until you get that reasoning
Until something happens.
aspect.
Something has to happen.
maturity of your brain, where you can logically look at something from a different perspective, not just the perspective you were given, but
And
a
then-
perspective that gives you objectivity.
And then when you're talking about a generational curse, right? We're talking about, again, things that you say like, well, how many of us haven't seen it though, right? So even though it may not have been the norm for my mom, right? Because after the first experience of my little brother, dad putting his hands on her, my auntie Janice came around there with that snub nose 38, you know what I mean? And then that was the last time. And then like mom, again.
But that's still violence.
But
that
it
you
was,
saw.
yeah,
With your
yeah,
auntie coming
and that was
with a weapon.
and that was really the only way. I mean, obviously, growing up in our area, that's how we handled. We dealt with violence, like that
Yeah.
was
Violence.
like you got us
So
fucked
violence
up.
is normal.
You know what I mean? Like we normalized it, right?
Yeah.
The norm.
But whereas I, who is, I got 2 daughters, right?
Right.
So I intentionally, at 42 years of living, I've never put myself in a position where I'm gonna put my hands on a woman, right? First of all, so I'm not gonna let my daughters think it's okay to see me put their hands on their mom. I'm not gonna let my son think it's okay, right? But that was me being very intentional.
Yeah.
So now
a lot of people are not.
absolutely. So, but I've raised my
Observant
daughters.
and intentional.
I
Yeah.
dated my daughters and I raised them to be in a position to where you want a man but don't need a man, right? Because the moment you start needing that man and he know
You
you
will
need
accept
him,
whatever
you
the
start to
fuck he
tolerate
gonna give you.
back to your point, when he's the financial one, he's the provider. And again, we see it so often, right? When they say like a street dude, right? But we ain't gonna even like stereotype one type of a dude
Right.
because it happens in the household with the husband,
You can't
right?
even put a
Right.
put
You
a
can't,
put a,
right?
put
Can't
a-
categorize
And
it
I'm
like
gonna say
that.
this, and it will happen first to the daughters who were dated by their dads.
Because whereas if I thought like, and I
Because
asked a friend
regardless-
that like, did it impact it because you had your father, and she said my dad was around, he dated me, he
That
loved on
part,
me,
me too.
Elaborate
and I
on that.
still
Elaborate
found
on that.
myself in it, and that messed me
Elaborate
up.
on that.
Because
you
I-
said the daughters that, even those that were dated by,
By
their
their
fathers,
dads,
they
yeah.
still find
Will find
themselves,
themselves
in abusive type
because-
relationships.
and it-
Why is that?
It's a weird phenomenon,
It's
right?
a
Okay.
Just to be
dynamic.
honest,
Yeah.
it's a weird phenomenon because every person is totally different, and the thing that attracted you to that person could have been a toxic thing that you didn't heal within yourself. You understand what I'm saying? It could have been to meet a need outside of finances. It could be an array of different things. But I've seen men say this on social media, that, oh, my daughter will never be in that situation because I do this for her. I show her what it looked like. I show her this and the third. And that's the worst place to ever be. The place that you should be in is if it ever happens to you, you need to be able to tell me.
Tell me. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that victim blaming
Yes.
and shame
Yeah.
that comes with it in our
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
that makes people feel like I can't tell anybody. Because when I did tell, and then he came over, and Auntie came over, and then I went back, now they dogging me out. I can't tell them no
And
more.
then there's that
Right.
expectation because I dated you
Yep.
and because I showed you.
And
how
I may
the-
have done some things that wasn't a good girl thing when I was dating
Right, and so
you.
so why no, just as a father though, dating his
Can't tell
daughter
my
and
kid.
teaching her, right? So if I taught you and I showed you and I'm intentional about making sure you know all these things, am I going to feel comfortable as the daughter
Yeah.
coming to you and
I
telling
ain't
you
gonna
I
let my
messed
daddy
up?
down. Yeah.
Right.
And you didn't teach me, or I didn't learn what
You
you
thought
taught
you
me.
taught me.
You understand?
And I'm
That's
letting
why
you
it
down.
says raise up a child in the way that they
way.
should go, and when they depart, not if, when they depart, because
No,
they're
that
going to
ain't what they
depart.
say.
Yes,
It
it
said,
does.
no, it said if you teach train up a child on the way it should go, and when they get older, it will not depart.
Yeah, well,
That way will not depart from
Yeah,
They will not
when
depart
they
from
get
it.
older,
From the teachings.
when they
From
get
the
older,
teaching, not
The
depart
teachers
from the
won't depart.
parents.
Yeah.
They won't depart
not,
from
not
the
from
faith,
parents,
right.
but there's going to be a time where I don't care how much you put into them, how much you teach them, how much wisdom you give them. It's still up to them
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
determine
100%.
whether
make
or
that
not they're
decision.
going
It's
to
choices. They got-
adjust
yeah,
those
yeah.
principles to their lives, right? And so when they depart, right? We have to be prepared for that part. I can teach you, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it.
Absolutely.
But wait, Macho. So is it possible? And for those who may have thought that same way, is it possible for the dad who dates their daughter to be abusing his girlfriend?
No, 100%. And
You
that's
understand what
why.
I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you saying I'm teaching her a certain thing, but I'm still an abuser.
Do as I
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Or,
not as I do.
I'm parading. They see this woman, that woman, that,
That
woman,
part.
that woman, but
And
I'm
that's
trying to
abusive.
teach you. It's almost like I do what I say,
Yeah, but
but
see,
not
so,
as I
so,
do. But
so
if
what
you
I've-
did what you say, then that's the best example.
yeah, what I've
The
always
demonstration.
what I've always appreciated with the relationship with my daughters is just the transparency that we've had. And when we've had those
Okay.
tough conversations, like when the virginity's lost, like my daughters absolutely, we cried. We had those moments. I remember my daughter came to me and she told me she liked girls. We cried and we laughed, and I loved on her, and we gonna figure this out. You know what I mean? And I never alienating her, making her feel like we can't not talk about anything. So we've had those very uncomfortable conversations, and I'm real grateful for that. But so let's be
Yes.
very clear, because I've never been that parent that say, well, my kids won't do this or they won't,
No,
right?
I'm just
But
putting it out there.
yeah, because you do
Yeah.
have those situations, and again, like even with me, so as much as I can say what I haven't, like I understand that they have their experiences, and those experiences
Yes.
that they've had. Like my daughter, like
Should be
again,
teachers.
and here's the dope part about it, because as much as I would love for my daughter to have been in Paris, like experiencing all aspects of things, the whole goal was don't finesse my daughter for no Benihana and get her goods, right? So we gonna cross T's and we gonna dot I's, right? So she's not gonna be overly impressed when you can come and give her
Right.
something that daddy's already given her, right? So if she choose to sleep with you, it's because she wanted to. You're not gonna, you know what I mean? But even in her
finesse.
dealing with dudes, right? So it's always been, don't put your hands on that dude, because he won't put his hands back on you. If you hit him, he gonna hit you back, right? But again, and let's be very clear, I'm never condoning my son, so my son gets held
That
to the
part.
same
Yeah.
standard and expectation.
that
At
has
6'4",
to be
220, you
the
can't
balance.
be arguing at your child's mom because it don't look right.
Yep.
It don't look right, and,
Yeah.
and dare not. I don't
Right.
condone whole shit. I don't give a fuck who you are. So my son don't get no pass. You understand what I'm saying? So I created that balance of
the balance.
raising 3 kids in the household, and being a
different
single
genders,
father,
yeah.
raising a son and 2 daughters, right? And you know, both 2 out of the high school, and one, you know what I mean? So I did a pretty okay job, right?
did a good job.
But that being said, they have their experiences too, right? But as much as I pray and I leave them in God's hands, I just hope and pray that they're never in that situation. But to your point, if they're ever in that situation, you come and talk to daddy, right? You come and talk to me. My daughter, she came like, daddy, he took my phone, he broke it. I said, first of all, next time call the police on this dumb ass, okay? Because that's you never be in that situation. Call the police and then call me, right? Like, call the police first. Let's let the law handle it. Because again, back to your point, don't nobody got time to be going to jail and losing their freedom and their lives and their careers because of this dumb clown ass nigga who wasn't raised right. So let's call the police. Let's get him. You know what I mean? But even in that situation, I just be praying, man. I pray and I trust God and I leave. You know what I mean? Because again,
So you
Is
mentioned
there a such thing as empathy for your abuser?
yes.
Yes.
Did y'all hear the
Very.
story?
You love that person.
Did y'all
You
hear about the
love that
story?
person, yeah.
Especially if
Where
it's somebody
the
you have a
lady,
baby with.
the lady,
Right.
what was it? The dude shot her in the face. Right, domestic dispute. Shot her in the face.
I saw that
And then committed suicide.
Yes.
The girl went to the man's funeral with her face still bandaged and patched up, fresh out the hospital,
I saw that
feeling
shit.
sorry
saw
for
it.
him.
For him.
Yeah.
What is that
trauma.
called? Stockholm syndrome?
Stockholm
That's
Yeah,
syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
And
You empathize
And
with
you
your
love your
predator.
abuser.
You
love the
empathize
person
with
you
your
love.
abuser.
And that's why the approach that we take with Supreme Court is meeting people exactly where they are. Like, I didn't flinch
Right.
or blink with this story
Yeah.
because I totally understand you love who you love.
Right.
And a lot of
For
people
whatever reason.
still want to be with that person. Their prayer is stop hurting me.
Yep. Yep.
It's not necessarily for you to go away from me. It's
Yeah.
for you to stop hurting me.
And that is another reason why women don't leave is because they really hope and pray
You gonna change.
that you're gonna go back to
And
who
there's something
you were.
wrong with me,
Yeah.
and maybe I gotta fix. Maybe I shouldn't talk
Am I
so
to
much.
blame?
I didn't
Did
clean
I
the
not
kitchen
wash
in
the
time.
dishes correctly?
I didn't do the kids on time.
Yeah.
What did
When
I
he was
do?
with his friends,
Which
I
one
called
you
too
do?
many times.
What
It's
you-
gotta be something wrong with me.
And that-
The sad part is when the victim tries to reach out and they get victimized some more. The sad part is they've already victimized
Yeah.
themselves because it's like you you're trying to so maybe I'm not doing something right.
I'm absolutely not
that's
doing something
victimizing yourself. Maybe
Yes.
if I don't
complain.
cook this particular meal this particular way.
I didn't
then,
do what he
You know,
said.
or maybe
Yeah.
if,
I don't
if I don't
listen
have an
enough.
attitude, or and it's self blame, right?
And I know he's
Yeah,
having a hard time on
self-blame,
his job.
self-loathing.
I shouldn't even ask that.
Right, and so it's
That's my
like so
fault.
maybe if I do everything perfectly and everything right, then I won't get my ass beat.
Look at y'all.
And I
So
can
Or
fix
he'll
it.
stay.
And so wait, but black women, we are
Fixers.
nurturers and fixers and cultivators, and we gonna make it better. We gonna take whatever little piece of anything we got. We gonna clean that thing up. We gonna polish it up,
We're gonna
and we're
multiply it. Make
we
it
gonna
do it
multiply.
good.
But we're also in love with the illusion of the idea of right. It takes a lot of self reflection and introspection and healing and self work to be able to look at your circumstance, not just in your relationships,
yeah.
talking about your,
All
any
of
part of
them.
your
It's
life.
like, wait a minute,
your
hold
life.
up.
And be like,
Objectively.
okay,
Yeah.
and really put yourself in a position to say, you know what, that ain't how it's supposed to be. I know that ain't what God called me to. I know I deserve, but if you've never even thought you deserved, I don't watch TV because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
I was watching because I'm working on something. We're working on something with Mina Monroe. So they said, well, have you seen her Dirty D? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So last night I watched TV. And I'm doing my research, right? But I was watching it and I said, this is so cringy because it's still normalizing all of the different pieces of domestic violence on so many different levels. I'm like, flag, 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 flag. Like, what?
Right, now
I can't
it's a
watch
flag.
this.
Now it's a flag. Right.
But if you don't have the education and awareness
yes.
of these things, and you don't have the ability to look and say, okay, I'm educated on that thing, so I know breaking my phone, that's a red flag. You want to put a tracking? I don't got to share my fucking location with you. I don't need to
Right.
know your location either. You grown, I'm grown. I see you at 5.
So let's talk about
What's
the
a healthy
strong.
relationship?
Let's talk about the strong woman, right?
Yeah.
The woman that knows all that shit, that still finds herself in that situation. And
In
they
love with
can't
the
tell
illusion.
nobody because they're so
Their
strong.
pride.
And everybody sees them as the woman that would never be in
Right.
that situation.
How?
Does
How?
she get out and how does she
She's
who does
so
she talk to?
beautiful. She got
Why
everything.
does she stay? She stay because her pride, bro. Nobody's supposed to know that part. There's a lot of
A lot
reasons
people
why women
still don't
stay
know. Yeah.
in abusive type situations, whether they're verbal, mental, abusive, physical, emotional.
We were just talking. I'm gonna just keep it real. We were just talking
Right.
about dating, right?
Yes.
And I thank the Lord just ended a 2.5-year situationship. It was good when it was good, but it's done.
Yeah.
But it took somebody to jiggle the light bulb, right? So, you know, when your light bulb in your house, sometimes it start flickering. It just take somebody to screw it in all the way and just give it a little boost. So, in this circumstance, and it was not domestic violence, but it had the potential to be. if I be honest. But me being who I am, I'm like, bro, that didn't pass. That didn't fly.
Yeah.
But I'm still continuing in this relationship because it wasn't physical. It wasn't nothing that really bruised my emotional parts. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't nothing that really took me off my square. But I peeped it.
Right.
And I peeped it again. I peeped it the third time. You know what I'm saying? So why did I continue in that relationship? It was feeding something else a little bit more than the potential breakup. You know what I'm saying? The breakup ain't even bothering me. The breakup was like, all right, it's done. It's over. Next.
Right.
I'm 39 years old. I'm single. Ain't never been married. I got everything that I need within myself and at home, right? I don't need nobody for nothing. But if you aren't that secure within yourself to just be like, understand what you were in that relationship for or what you were hoping to get in dating. I'm not making nobody a pretend husband while I'm dating. We dating. This my house. You got to go to your house. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't got to wake up. Like Erykah Badu said, nobody telling me the time. I don't need that. Alexa, what time is it?
Right.
Google.
Okay.
You know.
But so the strong person can still end up in a relationship when you love being in love, when you love dating, when you enjoy exploring life. You understand what I'm saying? And you meet someone that you have a synergy with that is compatible with you. And it's just some things that some people may not know are red flags. But for those of us who do know, it's a red flag. You like, but you can bypass it. One, because I ain't even really looking at you like that. I know this is temporary. So it's possible on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
That's where the introspect comes in too.
So let's talk about, since we want to talk about the victim, and we want to talk about why does she stay. Let's talk about what happened to the protector, though. Why does she have to be responsible for her own protection if the man is supposed to be the protector?
Some of them don't sign up for that. They just don't
I mean,
sign
that's
up to be
real,
the
though.
protector.
That's real, though.
They not fin to.
We want to talk
It's,
about
you know-
it's cause and reaction, right? It's action and consequence, right? And so you have the abuser, and you have the victim that goes through all of the motions and stays. And all we want to say is, why don't you just leave? Why don't we put the onus on the abuser? Why don't you just not abuse?
I think a part of that conversation we
deep,
was having,
too.
remember I said, is it the egg or the chicken?
Right.
Which one come first?
Yes.
The person being abused or their son that's going to grow up to be the abuser? Or their daughter that's going to grow up to be an abuser? Like, where do you start to heal the traumas? When do you just stop perpetuating and feeding and fueling the trauma in a person to where now we're healing a whole generation of people that learn how to love and learn how to say, you're not good for me. Them boundaries
And
you
learn
pushing
how to
and them
mean
steps
it.
you stepping, I don't like it.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of women that coddle their sons that have abusive behaviors as teenagers
It's a lot that
in middle school.
right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, if we gonna
At
really deal
home,
with
at
that
school.
thing, let's deal with that thing.
It's a community effort.
We're gonna read a couple of these.
You on my brain, because I'm picked the phone up
we're
looking
gonna
at the
read a couple of
comments.
these comments. What up, Steph, my boy? East Side, let's go. Red Zone, Black.
What
Bottom,
if the
stand
woman
up.
is the provider and they still get abused?
I believe
Yeah.
the woman being a provider sets
Sets
her,
her
up
up
for
for
abuse, because that would have been my situation.
Doing, doing, doing. You
There's
need a
some
sound effect
resentment.
right there.
Right.
I need my
That would've
brain.
been my
It's the face.
situation. Men-
Explain that, though.
I can vehemently say that my situation and some situations of people that I know that were the providers because of the person's economic or whatever for whatever reason, I believe that if you are providing for someone, that sets you up for abuse or resentment or some type of emotional something going on in the other
Some
person's head.
imbalance.
Yes.
The imbalance is what creates the resentment.
I believe.
The
And
imbalance
that's
is
where
what creates the
things start
conflict.
to come out. Yeah.
Char said,
And I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry, go
agree
ahead.
with that.
Oh, okay. Char said, sadly, the amount of domestic violence in the LGBTQ plus community is just as bad. There's been 4 murders by women of their own girlfriend in the last month and a half. Like, wow.
That we know about.
wow.
Yeah, that we know of.
Right.
That
we
they're
know of.
reporting.
Yeah.
And you know, one time, this was years ago. This is back when I was a preacher, right? And one prophetess, I guess she saw in me that this was going to be my end or whatever. She was like, I rebuke the spirit of murder. I'm like, girl, I ain't about to kill nobody. But no, there is a correlation to LGBTQ relationships and domestic violence murder. And the truth of the matter is, I mean, you know, people can over exasperate those statistics and say, okay, if you're gay, you know, there's a greater probability of you being murdered by your partner and this, that, and the other. Okay, great. Okay, cool. But I mean, let's just look at the heterosexual statistics as well, and let's not play the game. But this thing is not gender specific, but yeah, it is a higher probability. So, what do you say about that, Erica?
I've assisted. People think so. First of all, stigma in the black community and all these stereotypes and all these weird ideas that really don't make sense.
Right. Because you can apply it to any demographic.
Anybody. I mean, when you hear things like, well, the more masculine person in a homosexual relationship is the aggressor. It's not true.
No, statistically, it's not true.
It's not true.
It's the more feminine one.
Okay.
That is the more
that be
aggressive.
batshit crazy. Okay. You better run.
Statistically.
Okay, and so, or even in a male homosexual relationship,
the
you know,
more
they say
yeah.
the more masculine person. People assume that it's not true. And so, but I've assisted people in heterosexual and homosexual relationships. I've assisted men with PPOs and understand that they have been abused and going through that process as well. And when it comes to reporting, so people have an issue with hearing, well, y'all always say him is the abuser is him, is him. But I know in this, that, third, it's not about stereotyping. It's about the numbers. And when we talk about the reporting numbers, if people are afraid to go and make reports, that's where those analytics numbers are off. And so
that's
the
why
truth
you say
doesn't
according
to statistics, right? And the reporting. And so it is important for everyone to feel safe and comfortable to secure their own safety and well-being. You know what I'm saying? And make those reports. Even if it's over the phone, make the telephone reporting and get your report number. So it's important to make those reports so that you have that history. God forbid you need to defend yourself.
Create a track record.
You know what I'm
paper
saying?
trail. Yeah.
But y'all see, like Christian, like y'all, it's a rapper, Blueface and Christian Rock. So when you see this couple,
I don't know
she
nothing
be
about
fucking
it.
him up,
What
right?
trauma bond is going on with them two?
I don't
Right,
know.
and the
They got a whole
violence.
TV
That-
show now. They gave him a TV
I
show.
don't
One in 9
They gave him a
men.
TV show so we can watch them
Isn't
beat
that-
each other ass
It's
more.
crazy.
Isn't it one
don't
in 9
understand
men?
that.
Is it 1 in 9 men are abused?
Well,
Domestic?
listen, man. My mama used to.
By-
So here's
by
the funny
female
part. True
counterparts?
story. Let me tell my trauma, okay?
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This
Let
nigga
me
be
tell
like,
my trauma.
You can tell
We
it,
need some
macho.
water.
So I came home.
Milk.
My shirt. This ain't. Wait. I ain't laughing at y'all telling y'all trauma.
all right.
I ain't laughing at me telling
And
my
you're
mama.
right.
Not macho want us to be
a
sensitive.
Yeah, I want y'all to be
Respect.
serious right now.
Lord.
Anyway, so you know what I'm saying. You know, I was raised that you
Everybody
don't put
stretch your hands towards
I was
macho.
raised that you don't put your hands on women. You understand what I'm talking about? So when Camilla, you know what I'm saying, like ran up on me,
Called her out.
you know what I'm saying? When Camilla ran up on me, you know what I'm
who you
saying? And put hands on me, you know what I'm saying? I went home and my shirt was ripped, I was scratched up, and my mama was pissed and she said, "What happened?"
Yeah.
I said, "Camilla beat me up. You told me don't put my hands on no female." She said, "The next time a little girl put her hands on you, you better beat that bitch ass."
I know she did.
Okay.
And it's a lot of mamas that tell their kids that and their sons that, and they do that shit, and then what?
So that being said, Camilla tried to double back, okay? And when she doubled back,
You was ready.
this time proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Say that.
Okay, Yahtzee. But again, I was like 10 years old, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But I'm saying that to say jokingly though. But the way Krishan Rock and Blueface be at it, like she has really, like, no lie. I think she's so and
She got
and she
mental health
just,
issues.
okay,
I don't
because
care
that's
what
what,
nobody
so,
says.
so that's where I was going, because she was on a podcast the other day and she said this is my soulmate.
Yep.
And the way she tried to rationalize and justify the relationship, I said, OMG, this girl has demons that she's fighting. And it's unfortunate that he's one of the biggest demons that she's fighting, right? Wow.
But she
And
don't
that
realize
can
it.
be, right.
She don't realize it yet.
And
that
then,
can
so
be.
then the other part is how people think that's is cute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you also hear that too. Girl,
He
if
love
ain't
me.
do that,
If he
wouldn't
don't
care.
beat
Yeah.
my ass, he don't love
Oh,
me. Oh,
shit.
come on, baby
That's
girl.
trauma.
Those are the
Don't
ones.
try
Those
shit.
are the ones that's blaming themselves, right?
That's
Because
trauma.
I did it.
Yeah, I
deserve
did
it.
something,
I
and you
deserve
think
this
that
treatment.
you're culpable. You think that you've done something to deserve it.
Or
And
I
you
wanna
can
see
do
if he gonna
something
do
to
it.
fix
I'm gonna promote.
Does he
or-
care? Somewhere along the
Right.
way, your concept
cares,
of
he's gonna
love
react.
has been distorted. You think love is abuse, and that happened before your relationship.
Yeah. Long time.
You understand what I'm saying? Because there's no motherfucking way you had healthy love coming up, and you don't see this as abuse
But
and
I'm
unhealthy.
gonna take it another step though, because you may have had quote unquote healthy love to what someone thought was healthy.
healthy.
Love,
Right.
right?
That's
And we
what
talking about
they-
in your family dynamics.
Like, what is your realm of health?
Yeah, because
What is your perspective of
that's
healthy?
the other thing that I like to always bring and uplift is that Black people are not a monolith. We're all
True.
different. We're all raised different. We all
Yeah.
have different beliefs within
Yeah.
our households and our families and, you know, our sub communities and things of
Yes,
that
we
nature.
do.
Different churches we attend
Mm-hmm.
have different beliefs. So we're not a monolith. It's not a one size fits all type of thing. So to say healthy love,
What is that?
What is that?
Yeah, right.
You know,
And what is that to the
And
individual?
yeah.
'Cause it's-
and so, but it has to be healthy self-esteem, healthy self-worth. You know what I'm saying? A picture
And that's
of
I
yourself.
think that is the self-worth part.
Mm-hmm.
Is the part that I think allows women to subject themselves to abuse, not accept it
'Cause
or
wait,
endure it, but
we gotta acknowledge Camilla
accept
though.
it. Who's
Camilla mama should have whooped her ass
Mm-hmm.
because you don't get to put your hands on nobody.
And she should have said
You
that
don't
to
get
her.
to bully
You know what I'm
nobody.
saying? Because
I didn't wanna
the one
forget
thing
that
I
part.
do know is every man,
point.
every
Well
man
made.
wasn't
Because I had to
raised-
whoop my oldest daughter's ass.
That's how it
You
should
understand me?
be
You
from
don't
the
get to hit
gate.
nobody.
Every man
Keep your
wasn't
hands to
raised not to
yourself.
put his hands on the female.
Mm-hmm.
Some
see
men
that
were
all-
raised
all
whoever
right
hit
there.
you, hit them back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, to you abusive women out here in these streets,
Right.
you don't want
First
it,
of all,
don't give
Camilla.
it. Let's go.
yeah,
You know
Camilla,
what I'm saying?
yeah. Don't put your
What
hands
she
on
at? She
me.
in jail now?
No. We cool. Listen, so we laugh about that story because when she doubled back, like again,
She woke up.
oh man, stop playing with me. But again, I was only like 10 years old though. But like so
But it
again,
works.
so we're having daughters though, right? And having a son first, who's the oldest. You know, he's like my son's a giant, he's 6'4". You know what I mean? But it was always. I swear, I told my daughters from the moment they got in school, like, don't be wrestling with no little boys, don't play hitting no little boys, cause that motherfucker might hit you back, and I promise you, he probably hit you harder. Now again, now I fight a kid, I fuck a kid up. You know what I mean? But like, let's not even perpetuate that because
Skills
like
are true.
you gonna have to go get your parent, and then that's a whole bunch of dumb shit because my ready just keep your hand to yourself, okay? Let's start there. So I hold my daughters accountable, right? Like, don't
good
come
thing
telling
to
me
do.
he hit me. No, what the fuck you do to him first, right? But then when you tell me you ain't did absolutely nothing, not go get your daddy, okay? Go get somebody. 'Cause we about to fuck you up, and then you gonna go get somebody.
But I keep thinking about these different generations, and so like these '90s babies,
The Zanny babies,
they
yeah.
weird. They can't even have a conversation like what you proposing to have
Absolutely.
as parents,
Yep.
saying
That's
let's
true.
dead this, let's have a conversation, let's get our kids on the same path.
Because
You
their
know what I'm saying?
grandma's at 32.
Come on,
So
at
Macho,
29.
as a man, right? What do you think is driving some of these young men to not have that regard?
I think well
That's a
again.
good question.
It is a
Well,
good
let's be
Because
very
you're
real.
teaching yours,
Yeah.
but who's
Just said it.
teaching them?
If-
Proper structure, no guidance.
That's what I'm saying.
if
Who's
we
teaching
if
them?
we think the devil is not real, we're fooled. Okay, like let's be
Absolutely.
very clear. The devil is absolutely real. And when you think about to the point when you have babies, literally like babies having babies. So you 19 and you already got 2 kids, right? So by the time your child is 14, now they're having a child and you're a grandma at 30 years old,
30,
right?
yeah.
Like literally, I know women who are 30 years
And
old
still trying to live
and
out
they're-
their 20s.
So it's unfortunate to see that cycle perpetuated, but I think again where you have lack of community resources, right? So we don't got enough positive black male role models to be able to show them and to be able to grab them to be consistent with it, right? So
Yes.
again, that is a huge problem, right? That's
Right.
bigger than what
Right.
you know what I mean. The eye can see it, all right? And then when you start seeing the absence of the black fathers in the household, right? Just again from that family component, that's different. That's different to a young black boy. You know what I mean? So, but when you see it, and then again, it's social media is a problem in that regards now because it's everywhere. You see World Star, you see now they gave them a talk show. They got a reality show. From
Blueface
fighting, they from beating each other ass in social media, they now have a platform to really be
Normalize it even more.
even more. So now you got little girls
like-
who see Christian Rock and be like, shit, they getting the bag for what they doing. So
Right.
if all I gotta do is get my ass beat and now we get a reality show, then why wouldn't I want to get my ass
Because
beat?
I can afford to get a new tooth.
Right, that shit,
Fancy
that's
hair.
where the problem
a whole
lies.
grill. Like, you don't get stuck. Your
Because
whole-
she got a tattoo of him on one of her
On
fake
her
teeth.
tooth.
Oh wow.
So your response to the young men or the men that are doing this and the men that have been not properly raised is that the absence of a
So my
proper
question,
example.
the way I even started the topic was, who raised you clowns?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Who raised you?
Yeah.
Who raised you guys to make you think it's okay
Yeah.
to put your hands to physically, like, no lie. Man, my mom shared with me some shit the other day that kind of messed me up. And because I told her what the topic was, and she talked about being a kid and being able to hear her dad, like, fucking her mom up. And how it was like the norm for them, and she could get no help from none of her sisters, none of her like nobody would help her because it was the
that was
norm.
the noise.
And my granddaddy
You-
was such
what
a
happened in
gangster
your
that
household is
if
your
you say
household.
something to
Y'all
him,
handle that
he
shit.
like with a, you know what I'm saying. He wasn't the type that would only do it if no men wasn't around. He was like you know what I'm saying, like, and it was messed up because the first time I saw my mom again get any type of energy from a dude, it was my little brother did, you know what I mean, and it was like one and done. And she had the courage, but I witnessed my cousins going through it. It was the norm. It was the norm. But all
I
them
think you
dealt with
said a
street
good word,
dudes.
though. When you said you hold your sons and your daughters accountable, when you talk about who is raising these people,
Mm-hmm.
right, soon to be people, one,
Right.
because they are going
Yeah,
to
true
become
story.
people.
Process.
Right.
So
Jesus.
when you see something that needs correction, why aren't you strong enough or courageous enough? Because sometimes your kids start doing some stuff that reveals some issues in you and have you afraid. So that's what I'm talking about, that whole self-reflection thing. Like, you really got to be able to look at yourself sometimes because your kids do something, you like, damn, that's me, you know,
Oh yeah.
and don't know how to fix it
Got it.
and don't know where to fix it. Don't know what resources to do to get your child together and heal that thing instead of letting it fester and grow. I sit sometimes,
Passing it
because my
on.
kids are big kids, they grown, they out the house, you know. I'm sitting here looking at some of these people's children like, you really just gonna let them continue to do that without any consequence?
Got it.
So that's the raising part, is not being raised. Because I feel
Right.
like in our community, I'm only talking about black people. In our community, when we see something that touch our nerve, he'll be all right. She'll be all right. But you never even tried to address it. Because a lot of people use the excuse, oh, I can't say nothing to them because they're going to act crazy with me. You ain't even tried to address it. But if you'd have tried it when they was 5, you know what I'm saying? When you saw some things in them and you say, that spirit ain't right. I'm checking that thing at the door because until you leave here, I'm accountable for you. You know what I'm saying? So, no. And if I can't heal it, we got to find the resource and the things that can help you.
Right.
So because I'm going to say,
Yeah.
you can be in a 2-family household with a father figure,
All that.
all of
And
that,
still not be
and still grow up and be crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Because nobody was willing to check you and get you together when it was time to get you together, or get you in a mentoring program or a therapist.
Right. I think we underplay therapy
Okay.
as a community.
Talk about that.
I
What time?
believe we
What
No,
our
no,
time look
no,
like?
No, we. I'm literally about to thank our guests for
use
coming
phones.
and then
Yeah,
give you
that's what I
your
was just
the
wondering.
mic
No,
for your
I'll talk
final
all
thought.
day.
But no,
definitely talk about
ladies, we absolutely listen. It couldn't have been a better stage or platform to discuss this. I mean, outside of having life experiences, and we appreciate both of you coming on here,
Yep.
being honest with your truth. Right? It's Excuse My Truth podcast, so we appreciate you coming on here, and not being shy about your truth. So absolutely appreciate both of you ladies tonight.
And I want to
I
defer
appreciate
my final thought to you ladies. Talk to some of these women out here who are experiencing and going through this. Just give them some food for thought, or some encouragement or some suggestions on how to safely remove themselves from that situation.
Well, I want to definitely make sure people know that for some people, there is no just get up and leave. And I understand that, and I can sympathize with anyone who's going through a situation that they cannot just get up and leave. Sometimes leaving is a process. And like I said before, it took me 9 years to actually physically be able to remove myself from the situation. So it's a process. You may need to start with making sure you know where you're going. How much is it going to cost for you to get there? Right now, like Erica was saying, the resources in the community, we're in the desert. So it's kind of like we have to have wraparound services like Supreme Transitions, other places for resources, but you're going to have to probably get some of your own resources. So start making a plan.
The plan is the key, right?
Start a plan. You may not be able to get out today. You may not be able to get out tomorrow, but it's definitely possible. And you got to be safe. No matter what, you have to make sure you're safe.
That's cool.
That's
I
about all
totally
have to say.
agree.
Yeah.
Make copies of your vital documents, your kids' school records, ID, Social Security card, birth certificates. If you feel you have any questions, you have any thoughts that something could be dangerous for you, it probably is. Lean into that.
Yeah.
And there are resources available. There is a national hotline. The national hotline will refer Supreme Transitions if needed. You can find us on Facebook.
Do you know that national hotline now?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can
Well,
text it
it's
to
a
you.
national hotline.
Yeah, the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
You have
It's an 800 number.
No, I don't have enough.
But you can find Supreme Transitions on Facebook. Our contact us tab. You can get to the website, phone number, inboxes. You know, people call me directly, and we refer people out to where they need to go and give them the safety tips and tools that they need. And every Wednesday, we are at a church during a bulk food distribution, because that's where Black people go for help, is the Black church. And so we're there every Wednesday from 12 to 4. Advocates are available if you walk in under the idea or the guise that you were coming for a food box, but you were coming to talk to an advocate. We are there.
Okay. The domestic violence hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-7233. Please reach out. Don't be afraid. Don't suffer in silence. Women, men who are actually the perpetrators, get some help. You're inflicting more harm than good. So, that's my final thought.
And thank you. Thank you for uplifting
Yes.
survivors' voices.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming
Being
and
a
being so
resource,
transparent.
Considering me.
Yeah.
Because what this does is build the community so people know that they can call on either one of you.
Yeah, we can get them to
Anytime
y'all,
they
or
need,
y'all
or
can get them
anybody.
to them, or
Inbox
whatever.
me.
Absolutely.
Whatever I can do, I'm here.
And that's why we do community interactions. You got to be where the people at. You can't always be on the other side of the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Excuse My Truth podcast with Mac and Macho. We appreciate y'all.
We out.
We out.
Warning.
You are now tuned in to 7 Mile Radio.
Nasty Production.